Hi, I'm Akhil.
And I'm Rohan Nahar.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing Kantara, the Kannada movie which released in cinemas. I had no idea when, but it's now on Amazon, which is why we're discussing it. It's written, directed, and stars Rishab Shetty in the lead. It's just like a lot of movie, and I feel like so much happened. I think I've already forgotten, even though it's been a few hours. So, can you explain the movie to me, Rohan?
I cannot. And I don't think the person who's made it can either.
Yeah, there's a reason. Like, there's an old adage called "less is more."
Yeah,
Right?
but please someone tell this too.
I missed the part, I think, because I think it doesn't even say like in English or anywhere. So I had no idea until I finished the movie and I looked it up that he was a director, because the credits were just in Kannada and there was no like subtitle version of the credits. So I had no idea who directed it until the movie was like over. And I was like, oh, okay, he's directed it himself. Like okay,
Yeah, so this movie has been kind of building steam, right? Which is, probably why we are also kind of covering it out of all the millions of things that we can.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. The first I heard of it was when people started talking about it suddenly out of nowhere, and I was already, I think, a couple of weeks into its release at that point. So the weird thing is that this movie is like a proper like a word of mouth situation, as opposed to something like Onion Selvan,
which makes like more money like in the first week and then nothing,
which is
makes
like
nothing after that. Like this was, I think, a movie which was making like more money in its like 6th, 7th, 8th or week or whatever than compared
which is
to the early
unusual,
weeks.
right? Because this year particularly you have so many like big South Indian movies that they've kind of engineered to play in the North as well. And most of those movies kind of
by casting sometimes like actors from the North Indian industries or whatever.
Yeah, like we've done RRR and Liger already on the podcast. But this movie is like, it was like a small Kannada movie, right? And Kannada industry isn't very big and they're kind of self-contained, but then people kind of responded to it and it became what it became like weeks, months after it was originally came out. Like, it was dubbed later, like that wasn't part of the plan. Like the Hindi dub and the Malayalam dub and whatever, the Tamil dub, Telugu dub, So, and I hadn't seen the trailer or anything. I don't watch trailers. And I was like, okay, maybe interesting, something to watch, And then when you watch it,
and
it's
then
like,
I saw it.
Yeah, it's like,
just like, what are people on? Is the entire country like collectively hallucinating?
Which is also true, but then why do I fall for it every week?
Like just because something is popular does not mean there is any merit in it.
But the gap between, like general sensibilities has kind of increased also, I feel, and it just feels more magnified this year because of how much we've disliked, like, RRR, and like I haven't liked Ponniyin Selvan or anything.
Yeah, like people feel like these kind of movies, I feel like month in, month out, and I've seen like 2 of them in this entire year or what of my life. And I'm like already tired of like hyper masculine characters like
I'm so tired.
Jumping into other men. And I'm just like, no, can you like stop right now? Like, please. I thought we were past all these like, tropes and like generation thing, but it's like, no, this is still the thing. Like, people want to go to cinema just to watch like a bulky man beat up other men. Like, that's what the movie is about at the end of the day, right? Like, it doesn't care about its themes or whatever, like the tribal stuff and like about the culture, like being repressed or like being how the government's treating it, how the zamindars are treating them. Like, that all is just like dressing.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Which is very disappointing, right? Because there is like caste stuff happening here. There is environmental stuff happening here.
Yeah.
But the movie would rather just show like this bearded guy beating another guy in the mud, right? That's basically its vibe.
Yeah. And it's not even like a righteous, like a self-righteous person, like a Captain America or something, right? Like that he has a reason to, that you support him. This guy isn't, like, pardon my French, he's an asshole.
He is. And I was kind of shocked because I remember talking briefly about KGF. I don't remember which episode, but then I did try and watch KGF, right? Which is another Kannada movie, is like a massive hit that people seem to like. And I gave up on that movie when he is like literally like harasses a woman, right? And he like concocts his plan to kind of molest her in a hotel room. I'm like, what? Is that the movie
Yeah,
that you guys are?
like this movie I wanted to, I think, give up like probably like 57 times or something.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
I want to quit now. I want to quit now. I want to quit now. But I was like, no, I have to get to the end because we will talk about it.
So you know why I got particularly annoyed with this movie, you know? Like we see this behavior in a lot of Indian movies, a lot of Indian mainstream movies, right? And it's kind of treated matter of factly because that's how people behave and nobody knows any better, right? You get the sense that these movies are stupid and the people who made
Yeah.
them are stupid because they don't know. Here, what I felt was they do know. Like they know
Yeah.
that it's wrong. But the movie is mocking the audience, or at least people like you and I who will watch it and feel that it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
mocking us because it acknowledges his bad behavior, especially when he like, I remember this when he pinches the woman the first time he meets her.
I know. That was like, I was like, I'm done now.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, like, he just pinched his like love interest. It's the first interaction between him and the love interest. And I'm just like, yeah, this is it. How is this movie like? How am I supposed to like root for this guy anymore?
You can't, right? And then what makes that whatever action, like behavior worse is that the next scene, she shows up with her father, right, at his doorstep.
Right, which I can understand, like that she's sort of like coerced into where she doesn't really have an option, like she's trying, like desperate for the job or whatever. So until that point, the movie's still like, the woman is not supporting this. This is uncalled for. This is harassment or whatever. He's harassment or literally assault, I could say, because he's physically like touching her. And then because at that point you can still like say that okay, this is like she doesn't want it, but then 5 minutes later she wants it. I'm like, when did that happen? She goes from like, so basically he got her a job and she's suddenly like, yeah, you are amazing, everything forgiven. Is that what basically happened?
It did, and that's annoying. Like what I'm saying is that's annoying, but what pissed me off more was what happens in those 5 minutes, right? What happens in those 5 minutes is the father comes in a huff, right? He's like, he's angry at something, and the main guy, Shiva, which is like flashbacks, by the way, Brahmastra. I got like, what again?
Yeah, I was getting your flashbacks because like she keeps saying Shiva, like here also.
So
I can't take it.
When they show up, right, and he's angry or whatever, and the woman is silent, the woman doesn't speak much, basically, pura picture mein.
They're doing a comedy of errors.
Yeah. They're doing a comedy of errors. So you, like the audience, is supposed to be like, yeah, of course they're angry because you assaulted her, right? So the movie knows that you know.
Yeah.
Right, the movie clocks it. And then the movie like gives you a middle finger, like ha 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 ha. And like we know what you're thinking, but what you're
the father applauds him. Like forget like dartifying him like for what he did to his daughter. He's like applauds like तूने जो करा वो cop के साथ amazing. You're amazing बंदा.
हाँ और ये लो मेरी
which is like a lot of the other annoying thing is in this movie, which I guess it happens in every mainstream movie about like a hyper masculine character, is that everyone around the character applauds the character like throughout the movie. It gets so annoying after a point. You're just like, can you stop it? Can you let his actions speak for themselves and can you stop speaking him for himself?
Yeah, but I think that's like a trope in real life also with people like this. Basically then it becomes creepier, right? Because then the woman is like squeezed between him and then he's like, it's kind of sick what happens, and then he's like,
yeah, that's sick. And then a sicker thing happens after that, because like when she basically she falls in love with him, whatever, because of he got her a job, which like I can still never get over that. And then obviously they jump into a song because that's what Indian movies can only think of. They can't actually come up with conversations. And then he peeks through when she is showering, and I'm just like, I thought I had already lost it, but I now have lost it more somehow.
That was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, so this is actively like like this is actively irresponsible, because that happens like in a love song.
I know, like this is usually what would happen in like he would be the villain and then the sister's brother or whatever would like take revenge on this guy the entire movie.
Yeah.
Right? But except this guy is the hero of this movie. I'm like, what is happening?
And then the actual villain is just a dude. Like, he's not really doing anything
wrong. Who's doing his job?
He's not doing anything wrong.
This is just a dude doing his job and protecting the forest.
Why is he the villain? Because he disagrees with like the main dude. That's basically it.
I think they work like overtime to make him the villain, right? Like they make him like, oh, he holds like grudges very easily. He takes like personal offense against like our quote unquote hero. Like that's they have to really like work to make sure that he comes across the villain, and then that he like they makes like, oh yeah, he's dividing like and like cutting up tribal land, like so like you have to put in like layers and layers and layers to make a guy doing his job like the villain.
Which is insane, right? Basically, he's like the Vidya Balan character in that movie that we watched.
I was thinking the same thing.
But there you go, man. That's like the sensibilities ka difference, right? When you're so like devoted to hero worshipping.
Like imagine like just extending that analogy now. Like imagine, what was that movie called? I forgot. Vidya Balan one.
Yeah, I've forgotten too.
Yeah, but also imagine like if Vidya Balan was like made like somehow the villain, and then that hyper masculine character who was shooting tigers was made the hero in that movie. This is basically Kantara.
Yeah, that's basically Kantara, which is ridiculous when you say it, but that's true.
Yeah, it is true. This guy's going around shooting like wild boars left, right, center.
Wild boar se yaad aaya, like the movie there's like a CGI wild boar that keeps showing up, right?
Obviously,
which is I guess the magic realist portion of it, which is there, and some of it is interesting.
Yeah, he has like recurring nightmares and stuff.
Like that is in itself, it's not like, it's quite interesting. Like I would want to see that movie, instead of whatever they
make it more like psychological, like sort of not horror but at least psychological in some sense, instead of like making it so much like character, and it's like not character driven but a number of characters thrown at us.
So it's impossible to keep track of, right? There's like 35 people at any given moment, and then there's
I know,
obviously like the tonal stuff, right? Individually it's not a problem, like you have the individual scenes are fine, but then when you mush them together, like comedy ho raha hai, ab suddenly action ho raha hai, ab suddenly fantasy ho raha hai, ab like surrealist imagery ho raha hai. Like, what are you trying to do, right? Are you showing off? Is this what you think showing off looks like? What are you doing, right? So you never get a firm idea of what this movie wants to do or say. Only thing that I remember, like consumed of it in these whatever last couple of months is probably a still of his face doing that ritual, right? Which in itself is kind of misleading, because that happens like 5 minutes ke liye, and is extremely, like when it happens the second time at the end, it's excruciating to watch, because at that point you're so badly checked out of whatever is happening, and then just like the
the entire climax I was checked out. All I could like do in my head, I was like point out the inaccuracies or like the logistical like plot armor they were like flipping backwards just to protect the hero. It made no sense.
Makes no sense. And by that point, I was so like also lost, in terms of what was happening. Characters to dur ki baat hai, you don't really care about what's happening to anyone. But in terms of just a story, right? Because there is like some story, like generational hand-me-down kind of story happening. But after a point, you're like, I don't follow, because you've confused me. And whenever
they confuse you in the first literally I think 7 minutes or whatever.
7 minutes,
the prologue, and I'm just like, this is going like way too quickly, and you're jumping, I feel like important literally like short sometimes.
Part of me was like, Bong Joon-ho bola wahan pe jaake ke overcome hurdle of subtitle. I was like, ye dikhao se Kantara, please watch this. And then repeat what you said, because I couldn't keep up in those first 5 minutes. I was like, what
the problem here sometimes is the subtitles themselves make no sense.
I was like, what is happening?
You have to overcome the subtitles here also to watch the movie.
I was like, kya ho raha hai, dude? Nothing makes sense. I can't follow. You've lost me. This is like Ponniyin Selvan all over again. And then it kind of turns into a million different things. But yeah, I can't understand what's happening with the world. People like movies like this. Actually, even like women go and watch movies like this, and they're like, oh yeah, it's fine.
Which is like a next level crazy, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if it's like, if it's the problem is that media only serves them these kind of stories that they never have seen. Like imagine they've never seen like a fully fleshed out female character on screen, so they don't know what it's like anymore. so they can't even imagine what that's going to be like. So they just have, it's almost like ingrained patriarchy version of like filmmaking, whatever that is
But
called.
that's insane, right? Like, I understand that happens to a point with everyone, and obviously we shouldn't make generalizations. I know. But just as a person, I know that something tastes bad and something tastes good. Like, there's things that you can eat and there's things that you cannot eat, right? And even if I don't know, like, for 30, 40, 50 years, however long I've lived, that this thing is not meant to be eaten, when I put it in my mouth, I'm like, oh yeah, I can't eat a rock, right?
Yeah.
So when you watch something like this, when you watch a guy, assault her, right? Someone who doesn't know. And then you watch that person have little say in anything about her own life. Do you think that's normal because you've also experienced it? Is that why you think it's normal? Or do you, like, a part of you thinks that I don't like it when it happens to me, so it shouldn't be okay for me to see it happen to someone else? Like, I can't make that connection. Like, why would people be okay with this? Like, what do you have to have experienced in your own life to be like, theek, I give this a pass?
I mean, I have no clue because I'm not a woman. So I would love to like someone to like do like a national survey and find out what the truth is. Like, why are women just like forgiving like movie after movie where like the female characters are basically like lamps? Like we spoke about Brahmastra like a couple of weeks back. Like that Arya Bhatt like might as well like is not doing much there. Here there's literally like that landlord's like wife appears I think like 4 times in the movie and she says 0 lines.
As the main person. So what I find also annoying with these movies, this new wave of whatever, Liger, KGF type movies, is that you will have women in them, right?
Yeah.
And you will give them you give them the designation of being the lead, right? And then you will disrespect them by not letting them.
Which is almost like a bigger insult in some ways, that at least if you never like if you just show it like a masculine universe where like women are basically not there, then at least you don't even have like the question of like thinking about it, because they're like, yahan pe women hai hi nahi, then we're not thinking about it. But as you said, you put women in your story and then you like, oh yeah, now we won't give them scenes or dialogues.
So this Leela person is like a deep like secondary, tertiary character, right? Overall. But then when you start giving her like a love song and project her as the romantic interest of this dude who is our protagonist, and like advertise her presence, and then you don't let her speak.
Yeah, but then eventually you reduce her to like someone who's carrying like fish curry to jail.
Yeah, and then getting beaten up for it, by the way. She brings him food and he pushes her away violently. And then he threatens to beat her up. And then he says, men are supposed to be stubborn or something like that, he says. Right? Yeah. And then you have Ananya Pandey in Liger, right? Who's just squeaking and gawking. But she's supposed to be the lead, right? You have whoever, like all these movies.
Yeah, that movie, as we had spoken, also worked overtime to like keep her in the movie. There are literally parts, because like as the movie lies to us, right? It's only at the end, it's like, oh yeah, she was like trying to be on his side or whatever. But like when you're watching it, you feel like, why is she still in the story? She should not be in the story anymore.
Correct. So that's what I'm saying, right? The movie knows, like, unlike Liger or whatever other, like Liger's trying to put her there, right? Because it doesn't know how to. This movie knows what it's doing, which is what makes it worse. This movie knows that it's showing a guy who's being abusive, and yet it's forgiving him. It knows that the woman has nothing to do, right? But then it's again disrespecting her on screen and whatever, thematically as well, which is what really boggles my mind with this one, which is what makes it worse. And like even Brahmastra, they had to like, Alia Bhatt had no reason to be in that movie.
She has no reason to be around. It's like they're like, oh, we don't want like only Ranbir Kapoor going on an adventure. So like, how can we find a way to like push her into the story at every turn?
Yeah, same thing. Here they don't even try, right? But they're just like, nahi, but we do have a female character here. They don't do nothing, but we do have one. Like, why?
Yeah, like at the point when like they tell us that, oh, she's like a forest guard too, I was like, oh, this is interesting, right? Like, because you're gonna like now put like your central male and female characters on
there, right? Yeah.
opposing side of like ideologies almost in a way going forward. So I thought like that would sort of like form like the fulcrum of the movie, but no, like there's like a landlord in there, there's like the cop character in there, like, and just like itna kuch kyun ho raha hai? Like, can't you like just focus on like make your central like pair also like like in love, but also like fighting the fact that they're like working on opposing sides. Like that movie should just like revolve around those pillars, sorry,
Yeah.
and not like, as you said, a 35,000 other thing.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Because the movie introduces this conflict. Right? It does it deliberately as a yellow. And then it chooses to not do anything with it, which is like weird to me. Like, mat karo na fir. Like, I wasn't asking for her to be a, forest officer. Just make her whoever. It doesn't matter, because you're going to treat her like whoever.
Yeah, it's not like she plays even a role in the plot or anything, right? After a point.
No, it has nothing to do with anything. She could be in anybody. She doesn't have to be a forest officer.
Yeah, well,
it's crazy.
I'm getting at the point that she basically, if she doesn't exist, I don't think the movie would change, except the fact that you would have fewer songs.
You have fewer songs and you can't market it with that song. Basically.
Exactly, and you can't market that you have like, whatever. I'm guessing she's a big actress or whatever in Karnataka.
I'm not sure. But anyway, like, does it like appeal to women? Like, does having a woman in a movie
I think it appeals to men, probably, right? Like, like that's the angle. They're like, yeah, men want to see women in the movie, so like we should have a woman around our male character, because that's the fantasy, like they're saying, right? That you should behave like this, or like you can behave like this and still
you can behave
the woman.
It's okay. You still get the woman.
Yeah. So that's why they don't want to show him like a like an incel or something, that he doesn't have a woman, he just like goes around, because then that would like project be like, oh, like don't be like this, you will not get a woman.
Yeah, you're probably right. That's probably why they also
which is just like so sad on like so many levels. You start thinking about it. Like if like someone actually like had like time and money, or like at least had like there was reader interest in these, like, and you did like sociological like essays on what our films are saying, like I think the writer also would break down after a point, actually. Like, मेरे से नहीं होगा, I quit.
It's like her entire character arc is basically like an item number without the music. Or the dance. It's just,
sometimes like this is like, it's funny, but it's also like deeply like
it's tragic,
annoying, because I also feel like we're talking about a movie in 2022, but then also feel like we're talking about a movie from the 80s or something. Like nothing has changed in somehow in like 30-40 years in India.
Yeah. So 80s, 70s, this movie Kantara particularly, and KGF and whatever, these new movies, they're all inspired by that wave of the Amitabh Bachchan things that happened, right, in the 70s.
Angry young man.
The Angry Young Man. But then I watched one of those, like I watched Diwar and PVR recently when they re-released those movies, right? And I didn't like it because, it doesn't hold up or anything, sensibilities that I just cannot bridge that gap.
But at least it's like, it can be forgiven that it was made in a different time.
It was made in a different time and no one's
like, how do you forgive this one?
Yeah, nobody's pinching. Like, usme jo bhi hota tha, consent tha at least. I'm talking about one film in particular. I'm talking about generally, I don't know. But then even those movies had like, like a mother figure, right? Like there used to be like a dynamic between the angry young man and their mother, because they were devoted to their mothers. And I remember in that movie particularly, the mother was like a moral compass, you have become a villain, you have become a gangster, and I don't forgive you for it. I will leave you because of your choices, right? So he kind of turns around because he feels that he's let his mother down, which is okay, like in your
he's let his
universe.
Roots down. Yeah.
Yes, but in this movie, khana do mujhe type.
He treats her so badly that I was like, how is he still in the house? How is he not being kicked out? Like the mother like keeps forgiving him, I think, every 3 minutes in the movie.
Which is the fantasy, right? Which is you want to be served by virtually every woman in your life, right?
Yeah.
The one that you, whatever your love interest and your mother, they all exist to serve you and to kind of nod away when you do whatever you want to do. Like nobody's there to check you. Like the dudes around you are applauding your every move. The women are being like, oh sir, like hum kya kar sakte hain aapke liye? And yeah. And then like this is incel movie. Yeah, this is like an incel movie. This is for incels. Like they'll watch it and they'll be like, hum hero hai.
Yeah. हमें ये लाइफ मिलनी चाहिए, हमें लाइफ क्यों नहीं मिल रही है?
It's kind of disgusting.
हमारी कहाँ है? Free woman कहाँ है हमारी? Yeah, we were born on this planet, we deserve a woman. Like that's like the mentality, right? Basically.
Yeah, it's kind of insane that this movie exists and that it's kind of people have watched it and liked it
and then spread it around it. मैंने देखा, मुझे पसंद आई, तू भी देख.
Which I'm also guilty of. I apologize. I think that's about it. I have nothing more to say about Kantara.
Yeah, I don't think I want to just go into like the action scenes or anything else. Like, which like, because as we said before, like that's what the movie is trying to be about, right? Like finally, that's what it's selling is that one dude punching other dudes. But even that stuff is not done particularly well or anything.
Not really. I mean, a part of me was like, "ठीक है, पैसे नहीं होंगे, whatever." You know, it doesn't look particularly bad. Like, it doesn't look sasta or anything.
Yeah, but it does have like the particular like annoyance of like which has been I feel like been carrying around with like South Indian film industry just like forever is that every time they feel like they can't come up with like something unique in action, they just like slow things down as if like that makes things better, but it doesn't. That's not a trick that always works.
It's not. Yeah, they have like, I don't know if it's like residual Zack Snyder effect, because there is one shot particularly when he's like running around like a dolly zoom kind of situation happening, which is similar to that 300 thing. So like I always come back to that. 300 was the moment where action movies changed, and South Indian movies haven't evolved since then.
Yeah, does seem like it.
There's also like the the rock music is obviously obvious when it happens at the end, which is weird. Like, why was that rock music?
It sort of pulls you out because it's not like you should do it the entire movie, right? Then it feels like, oh yeah, you're trying to do something different. But then when you just do it like the entire movie, like, they will do it obviously like your Kannada, whatever, like a sort of like folklore music because you're trying to like keep the movie like mystical and supernatural in keeping with its folklore elements. But then weirdly, like as you said, that in the action moments, you're like, oh yeah, we want to try something different. And it just feels like tonally disorienting. Then I'm just like, what just happened? Why is this happening?
Yeah. There's an action scene in the middle which has like techno music happening. And then the one obviously at the end and the beginning, there's rock music. The song itself was changed apparently prime release. Theatrically, it was a different song. But that song as well was a rock song. So, I mean...
Yeah, it doesn't
general
make sense. I think
vibe.
you have to do it consistently across the movie, otherwise it just feels like jarring.
It is jarring, and it kind of sums up like the entire experience. Like, ये क्या हो रहा है? Oh, वो क्या हो रहा है? अब ये क्या हो रहा है? क्या? Was there a boar suddenly? Where did that boar come from? But yeah, exhausting experience.
Yeah, I heard like somewhere, probably the wrong, that they're making a sequel or something.
It seemed like they can with like the ending particularly, like the door is open, it seems, and अब तो पक्का करेंगे ना, like अब तो like it's
just like Hollywood, right? Like now there's a commercial incentive to it to do a sequel.
Yeah, I mean if they were already planning to do it, considering the ending that we did see, अब तो for sure there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah, like the audiences have basically like rewarded them, like, yeah, good movie. Please give us more like this. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, which is like, it represents just like how the movie treats Shiva is how the Janta is treating the movie. You abuse us, but we approve.
And that's why we're like in this current state where like just get like movies like this one after the other from every industry possible.
Too much. And my worry is that they will see the success of this movie and be like, acha, okay, this is what works.
Greenlight like 10 more like this across like every industry.
10 more like, and that's what's going to happen for the next year or two. So all the hard work that we've seen, like in the last 5, 6, 7 years, where there were changes, like more women leading films, idea of masculinity was changing, especially like Indian movies. You don't have to be like a muscled like action hero. You can have sensitive protagonists in major Hindi movies, Indian movies. Or I feel that's going to go away with stuff like this.
Thanks to RRR, KGF, and now this.
Yeah. So congratulations.
All right, time to call it a day.
Yes.
That's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram at thelongtakepod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please leave us a rating and a review wherever it's this episode, and we will see you next week.